world is trembling. Nations are in turmoil. Hearts are growing weary. And truth seems harder to find with every passing day. But in the middle of all this chaos, something powerful is happening. Something that was spoken about long ago. It's unfolding right before our eyes, and it's happening in the very land where prophecy first began. This isn't just another news headline or another moment of history repeating itself. This is the sign that was warned about. As we watch the events taking place in Israel, we're not just witnessing politics or war, we're witnessing the movement of destiny. Ancient words are coming alive, and the message behind them carries more weight now than ever before. These are not coincidences. These are reminders, warnings, invitations for us to open our eyes, awaken our hearts, and prepare our spirits. So as you listen, don't just hear these words, feel them. Let them stir your faith, strengthen your courage, and remind you that even in a world full of uncertainty, divine purpose is still unfolding. Stay with this message until the end, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see everything happening around you and within you. This is not just a speech, it's a wake-up call for the soul, a call to rise, to believe, and to walk in light when the world is covered in shadow. Stay with me till the last word, because somewhere in this message you may find the sign that your spirit has been waiting for. The prophetic fulfillment in the Holy Land is one of the most profound signs of the times. For centuries, Scripture has pointed to Israel as the spiritual heartbeat of the world, a land where prophecy meets reality. What we are witnessing today is not just political unrest or regional conflict, it is the unfolding of divine patterns that were spoken long ago. Every event in that small strip of land seems to carry a spiritual weight far beyond its size. From the restoration of Israel as a nation to the rising tension among nations surrounding it, each moment echoes ancient warnings about a time when the nations would gather, the faith of many would be tested, and the hearts of people would either turn toward or away from the truth. In Israel, the physical battles mirror the invisible spiritual ones. The conflict over land is in many ways a conflict over faith, light, and destiny. The ancient prophets foresaw a time when Israel would once again become the center of global attention, not only because of politics or power, but because the spiritual destiny of humanity is intertwined with it. When we see division, unrest, and miraculous endurance within that land, it reminds us that the words spoken thousands of years ago still breathe life today. These moments are not coincidences. They are the whispers of eternity, reminding humanity that divine promises never fade. The shaking of Israel is a shaking of the world's conscience, a wake-up call that prophecy is alive, and the timeline of heaven is moving forward. The signs unfolding in Israel today are not random. They are messages to those who watch and pray, reminding believers that what was foretold is not distant. It's happening now. The rise of deception and spiritual blindness is one of the clearest indicators that humanity is drifting further from truth. In times of confusion and fear, people often seek comfort in voices that promise peace without transformation, hope without repentance, and faith without obedience. This deception is subtle. It does not always appear as evil, but often disguises itself as light. The ancient warning spoke of a generation that would call good evil and evil good, where the hearts of many would be led astray by clever words and false assurances. In today's world, we see that spirit-taking root truth is questioned, morality is redefined, and faith is being diluted by the desires of the flesh rather than the convictions of the soul. Spiritual blindness spreads when people choose convenience over conviction. It happens when the heart becomes desensitized to sin and the mind grows weary of discernment. The more noise the world creates, the harder it becomes to hear the quiet voice of truth. Many are distracted by worldly pursuits, addicted to opinions, and detached from divine wisdom. This is not merely a cultural shift, but a spiritual condition, one that clouds perception and hardens the conscience. Deception thrives in an age that denies accountability. It blinds people to the reality of spiritual warfare, convincing them that everything is physical or political while the real battle rages within the soul. When love for truth fades, deception finds a home. Yet even in this growing darkness, those who seek light with sincerity can still find clarity. The warnings were not given to create fear, but to open eyes, to remind the faithful to test every spirit, to cling to righteousness, and to guard their hearts from the subtle lies that lead away from eternal truth. Wars and rumors of wars are not just signs of global instability, but reflections of a deeper spiritual disturbance within humanity. Every generation has seen conflict, but in these times, the frequency and intensity of violence echo the ancient warnings of increasing unrest before a greater awakening. The world today trembles under the weight of fear, uncertainty, and division. Nations rise against nations, alliances shift overnight, and what once seemed secure now feels fragile. These conflicts are not only about territory or resources, but are manifestations of pride, greed, and the hunger for control that dwell within the human heart. When we hear of wars, it is not only the clash of armies, but the evidence of spiritual decay, of a world turning away from divine guidance. The shaking of nations mirrors the shaking of souls. It is as if creation itself groans under the burden of humanity's rebellion, waiting for redemption. Israel and the Middle East, the cradle of prophecy, remain at the center of these global tensions. Every battle fought there seems to resonate far beyond borders, stirring emotions, faith, and fear around the world. It reminds us that the struggle for peace in that land is symbolic of the greater struggle for peace within the human spirit. Yet amid the chaos, these wars and rumors serve as reminders that nothing happens outside divine awareness. They are not meant to drive despair, but to awaken discernment, to make humanity reflect on its path and turn toward what is eternal. The clamor of war reveals both the fragility of human systems and the urgency of spiritual renewal. The unrest we see around us is not the end, but the call to prepare our hearts for what is to come, to anchor our faith when the world shakes. The call for watchfulness and prayer is a divine command for those who live in uncertain times. When the world grows darker and confusion spreads, the need to stay spiritually alert becomes greater than ever. Watchfulness is not about fear or panic, but about awareness, an awakened heart that can discern the signs and remain steadfast in truth. It is the recognition that unseen forces move behind what we see, and that every believer is called to guard their heart and mind with vigilance. Prayer becomes the anchor in this storm, the constant link between the human soul and divine strength. Without it, the spirit grows weary and the flame of faith begins to flicker. To be watchful is to live with open eyes and a ready spirit, understanding that distractions can easily dull one's sensitivity to the presence of the divine. In moments of crisis, many look to the world for answers, but those who pray find peace that transcends circumstance. The chaos surrounding Israel and the nations is not simply a geopolitical event. It is a spiritual signal urging humanity to return to prayerful communion, to intercede for wisdom, and to prepare for the fulfillment of greater promises. Prayer is not only a request for help, but a declaration of trust. It keeps the heart humble and the soul aligned with divine will, even when everything seems uncertain. Watchfulness trains the spirit to recognize deception, and prayer strengthens it to resist temptation. Together, they form the foundation of endurance in a world filled with turmoil. The call to stay awake and to pray constantly is not a suggestion. It is a lifeline for those who seek to stand firm when everything around them begins to shake, drawing strength not from the world, but from the eternal source of peace. Love growing cold while compassion rises is one of the most striking contrasts of this generation. The world today often feels colder, more divided, and more self-centered than ever before. Hearts that were once tender have hardened under the pressure of betrayal, injustice, and constant exposure to suffering. Many people have become numb, not because they lack emotion, but because they are overwhelmed by pain and confusion. The warning spoke of a time when love would grow cold, when selfishness and pride would replace empathy and understanding. This chill in the human heart is evident in the way people treat one another, with indifference, hostility, and a lack of mercy. It is as if compassion itself is being tested in the fire of chaos. Yet in the midst of this spiritual frost, a remnant rises, souls who choose to love, despite the darkness. Compassion becomes their act of resistance. When the world withdraws into fear and hatred, these hearts step forward with kindness and grace. They forgive when others curse, they give when others take, and they shine when others fade. This is the kind of love that cannot be manufactured. It comes from a deeper well, a divine source that never runs dry. True compassion is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. It sees pain yet chooses to heal. It witnesses injustice yet responds with hope. Every small act of love becomes a light that pushes back the darkness. The colder the world becomes, the more powerful genuine compassion appears. It stands as proof that divine love is not lost. It still flows through those willing to carry it. While the world may grow cold, compassion rises as a testimony that light still lives within hearts that refuse to surrender to hate. The nearness of redemption is the ultimate message behind the signs unfolding in the world today, especially within Israel. Every shaking, every conflict, and every moment of unrest serves as a reminder that divine promises are moving toward fulfillment. Humanity stands at a threshold between what was foretold and what is about to be revealed. The world's growing instability is not simply chaos. It is a preparation, a refining process calling people to awaken and return to what is eternal. Redemption is not just a distant event, but a living hope that breathes through every believer who looks beyond the turmoil and recognizes that renewal is coming. In times of fear and uncertainty, many lose sight of this hope. Yet even in the darkest moments, divine purpose continues to unfold. The struggles of nations, the cries for peace, and the shifting powers all point toward a divine orchestration far greater than human understanding. The signs in Israel are not meant to terrify, but to testify, to reveal that what was spoken long ago is alive in this generation. Redemption draws near not only in the physical sense, but within hearts that turn from despair to faith. Each challenge becomes an invitation to trust more deeply, to live with readiness, and to focus on what truly matters. The nearness of redemption means that every trial carries purpose, every storm carries a message, and every tear can lead to transformation. It is a call to lift one's eyes above the noise of the world and recognize that divine restoration is on the horizon. The signs we see are not endings, but beginnings, the birth pangs of renewal that will usher in peace for those who endure and remain faithful to the truth that never changes. As we look at the world and the signs unfolding before our eyes, one truth becomes clear. We are living in a time when the spiritual and the physical are colliding. What happens in Israel is more than history repeating itself. It is prophecy coming alive. These moments are not meant to fill us with fear, but with faith. Every shaking is a reminder to stay grounded in truth. Every deception a call to seek discernment. Every conflict an invitation to pray. And every fading love a challenge to let compassion rise again. The nearness of redemption is not a story to be admired from afar. It is a reality calling us to prepare our hearts and strengthen our spirits. Now is the time to awaken, to live with purpose, and to walk boldly in faith. Let not your heart be troubled by what the world reveals, but be encouraged by what heaven promises. The signs are not the end. They are the beginning of a greater awakening, a time when light will overcome darkness and truth will triumph over lies. May your heart remain steadfast, your faith unshaken, and your spirit filled with peace that no chaos can break. Keep watching, keep praying, and keep shining, for those who stand firm in hope will see the promise fulfilled. Good luck on your journey of faith. May strength, wisdom, and divine peace follow you wherever you go. Thank you for listening. May these words bless your heart, inspire your spirit, and draw you ever closer to the light that never fades.